What's up, everybody? PC gaming is on the rise in the last couple of years. Have you been wondering about getting into PC gaming? If you have, stick around. I'm about to show you how. I'm on my way. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Rainbow Man channel here on YouTube. I am your host, William. And as I said in the intro, we're going to be talking about PC gaming. Now, a couple of questions right off the bat. Are you in gaming now? Are you a console gamer looking to step up your game, as it were, into PC gaming? Or are you just someone who's curious about getting into PC gaming for the very first time? Well, if you're any of these or more, this video might just be for you. We are going to be covering my background in this video very briefly to give you some context as to why you might want to take my advice. We're going to be covering console gaming versus PC gaming, building versus buying, and what to look for in a gaming PC. Very brief overview of parts that go into PC, how they work together. This will help you either in building or buying. But before we get there, if you like this content, if you like what you're seeing, don't forget to hit that like button below. Hit the subscribe button as well for more content. Any and all engagement does help my videos within the YouTube algorithm. It helps me to grow my channel. Don't forget to share with others as well. So thank you in advance. Very briefly, my background into PC gaming is essentially this. I wanted to get into streaming. I started with a Lenovo laptop, a cheap mic I bought off of Amazon, and the camera that was on the Lenovo laptop. Small desk in the corner of my room here, and it slowly progressed from there. I use Google a lot. I used YouTube a lot. Don't be afraid to research for yourself. YouTube is a great resource. Google is a great resource for learning new things. I was a console gamer for the longest of times. I started on the Atari when I was just a wee thing, and moved up to NES, Super NES, Genesis, all the way up to current day. I've played almost all of them, except for the current generation of 1X or PlayStation 5. Ever since going to PC gaming, I haven't touched my Xbox or my PlayStation in over a year. That's just how much I've dived deep into PC gaming and streaming. That's what got me into PC gaming, because I wanted to stream my gameplay. Because I played a lot of games. I figured, why not share it with other people? So that's a little bit of my background as to my motivations. I'm just a guy who loves gaming. Why am I covering this topic? To help others who might be in the same position that I was in and help maybe nudge you in that direction. For me, it's content. The more content I can make, the better. I absolutely love PC and tech. I love talking about it, learning about it. And I've also had friends and family ask, or I've noticed them talking about wanting to get into it and just don't know where to start. That leads me into who is this video for. Basically, it's for people who are looking to get into PC gaming, console gamers wanting to step up their game or look to get into streaming, or just anyone curious about PC gaming in general. If you're a console gamer and you're looking to get into PC gaming, you're going to notice a definite uptick in quality of your gaming. You can play consoles for years and think you're getting the best out of your gaming. Absolutely. And I would still go back and play console if I had no option. PC wise, console gaming is a great intro into gaming. The Xbox, the PlayStation, Nintendo, that's all great for those that just casually game, that don't necessarily care about, getting the absolute best out of their gaming, or just want to experience stories and just play for the hell of playing. That's absolutely fine. But if you're wanting to get the best out of your story, as far as performance, as far as quality of picture, quality of sound, just quality of overall experience, I believe PC is the way to go if you can afford it and if you have the space to do so. PC is definitely better experience wise. Consoles are good, and they do have certain exclusives. Like, for example, a lot of the Nintendo games, old school Nintendo games, certain games that are out now, such as Animal Crossing comes to mind, you'll probably never see on PC. That's one of the things you'll have to come to expect as a PC gamer. You just won't be able to play certain games. So if you still want to play those games, you'll still need a console. Sony does have certain exclusives that probably won't ever make it to PC. Those titles are slowly but surely becoming smaller and smaller. We've seen Uncharted come to PC. We've seen a lot of JRPGs come to PC that were once only for PlayStation console. So who knows what the future might bring. If you're going to jump into PC gaming, you're going to have to ask yourself, are you going to want to build your own PC, or are you going to want to buy your own PC? Buying your PC is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Buying what's called a pre-built, absolutely nothing wrong. Buying is probably going to be the go-to option for most people. Most people are going to be afraid or tepid about buying the parts and building their own PC. They may not think they're tech savvy enough. They may not think that, they have the smarts to do it. They may think it's this overcomplicated thing, but it's really not. If I can build a PC, anybody can, honestly. I don't say that as just a one-line shrug off. I mean, really, if I can build a PC, absolutely anybody can, because I'm not the most mechanically inclined, tech savvy person in the world. And if I can, I think anybody can. If you're going to go buying a pre-built, you've got your main options. You've got your HPs, your Dells, Acer, Lenovo. They make gaming PCs. They make PCs that are gaming capable. Then you got your more specialized gaming companies. You've got Asus, Corsair, MSI, Alienware, which is actually owned by Dell, iBuyPower, CyberPower. These are all, as of January 2023, when this is being filmed, these are all your mainline popular brands on Newegg. I mainly shop Newegg. I don't do Amazon. I don't do eBay. If you do, that's fine. I've ordered a lot from Newegg, and I really haven't had any issues. Newegg is my reference point for all buying offline. Now, you can actually custom order your PCs. You can actually pick out the parts, and the company will build it for you and send it to you. I mean, you've got companies like Best Buy, Build Redux, Digital Storm, Origin PC, and ZXT, just to name a few. But there's a plethora of them on the internet. If you Google search build your own PC, you'll come up with hundreds of sites. So if you want the benefit of picking your own parts, but you don't feel like you're inclined to build it yourself, you can have companies build it for you, although you're going to pay a premium for it. Building your own PC is not as hard as you might think. Nowadays, it's pick and plug simple. Back in the day, I would watch my dad try to build PCs, and he'd order these PC building parts. That was when you had to actually solder like transistors to the motherboard and all of this. This was back in like the late 90s. It might have been mid 90s, actually. Nowadays, it's just plug and play. What to look for in a PC. Whether you're buying or building, you need to understand the essentials of how a PC functions, how the parts work together, what to look for in those parts, whether you're building or buying. That's going to come in handy for the longevity of your PC gaming lifestyle. There are a few main parts you want to pay attention to. There's the central processing unit, the CPU. There's the RAM that you're going to want to have. There's the motherboard, the graphics processing unit, or the GPU, and the PSU, or the power supply unit. The brains of the operation is the CPU, the central processing unit. Essentially, you're only going to have two options. You're going to have AMD or Intel. Intel has the Core i series. AMD has the Ryzen series. Those are going to be your main gaming processors. All right. They're great for gaming. They're great for multitasking, meaning if you're gaming and, trying to watch a video at the same time, if you've got a single monitor system, whether you've got a multi-monitor system, that's another question you're going to have to ask yourself, whether you want single monitor, multi-monitor. Most gamers tend to go with a dual monitor setup. It's great convenience. Whether you pick AMD or Intel, you're going to want to look at two things: core count and the speed of the processor. Your core count is going to determine basically what you can and can't do with your PC. For example, if you have a 4-core processor, you're probably not going to be able to do a lot of multitasking. You're probably not going to be able to game and stream and watch a video at the same time, meaning that you're not going to be able to with great efficiency. You probably could, but you're going to run into stuttering issues, maybe some crashing issues, depending on what components you choose or what type of computer you choose. But your core count is where it's at. So chances are you're probably going to want to game. You're probably going to want to watch YouTube videos while you're gaming, have something on in the background like Spotify or iTunes. So I highly recommend nothing less than an 8-core processor. Now, the speed at which your processor runs, you'll see something like 8-core, 16-thread, 4.2 gigahertz. That 4.2 gigahertz is going to be top speed for your processor. How fast can it compute? When you're picking out your CPU, if you're building, you want to pay attention to your socket type. With AMD, you've got AM4, you've got AM5. Those are the main two right now. And then with Intel, you've got 1700, 1600. You've got a plethora of them, but I think the main socket right now is 1700 for Intel. And that comes in handy when you're going to pick out your motherboard, because you don't want to pick out an AM4 motherboard if you have an Intel CPU, or vice versa, simply because the socket types are different, meaning the pins are placed differently. That's all that means. With the motherboard, you have an AMD motherboard or Intel motherboard. That's all going to depend on your socket type. So outside of the socket type, some specs you want to pay attention to are number of memory slots. How many RAM slots does it have? Does it have 2? Does it have 4? Does it have dual channel? Does it have single channel? Most motherboards these days will have dual channels. How much memory is supported? Does it only support 32 gigs? Does it support 128 gigs of RAM? Pay attention to the PCIe slots. Okay, is it PCIe Gen 4? Gen 5? How many by 16 slots does it have? How many M.2 slots does it have? How many SATA ports is it able to connect to? Does it support Wi-Fi? Does it support Bluetooth? If that's something you want to have on your computer, pay attention to the form factor. Is it a micro ATX? Is it a mini ATX? Is it an ATX motherboard? Is it an extended ATX motherboard? Basically, if you have an ATX motherboard, you're not going to be able to fit that into a mini ATX case because that's going to be a smaller case. The last thing you want to pay attention to is the back IO, back panel where everything plugs into. So whatever it is you're looking for, you're going to need the USB ports to support, mics, headsets, keyboards, mice, all of that. So make sure it's going to have enough USB ports to support what you're going to want. With HDMI ports and the display ports, that's all going to come off your graphics card. Your what's going to go to your monitor is going to come off your graphics card, not your process. So essentially, the HDMI and display ports on your motherboard are useless ports. But yeah, USB ports is essentially what you're going to want to pay attention to. How many LAN port? Does it have Wi-Fi antenna connectors? This is all the stuff you're going to have to think about whether you're buying or building. If you're buying a PC, take a look at the specs of the computer. Does it have 4 USB ports? Does it have 10 USB? I mentioned M.2 slots. M.2 slots are slots that are connected directly to the motherboard for NVMe or stick memory drives. You can get them in anywhere from 500 gigabytes all the way up to 4 terabytes, I believe, is the max right now. And those are by far the fastest and best storage devices you'll want to have in your system. I have 2 of them in mine. I have no SATA drives. I have no hard drives. It's just the NVMe drives. And I absolutely love the speed of those drives. From pressing the button to fully ready to run my computer, it's like that. SATA drives, SATA SSDs are also a good secondary option. So let's talk about RAM now. RAM is the speed of your computer. A lot of times you can bottleneck your computer by having very little RAM. So I know for me personally, I was having issues all the time. I was noticing, like, whatever computer I had, why is it always so slow? It always seems so slow. It's a brand new computer. Why does it seem so slow? Number one, you got to pay attention to what's actually running in the background. Oh, that's simple. All you got to do is go down into the tray on the bottom right and see what's running. You can also go into your search bar and type running apps. You can go down the list of what's running and turn off anything that's not essential. But the second thing is RAM. You can have, an 8 or a 10 or a 12 core processor, but if you only have 8 gigabytes of RAM, you're bottlenecking your system. And here's why. Your computer pulls all the information it needs to load programs, to run programs off of your storage drive that runs through the motherboard, through the RAM, and where it's stored until the central processing unit is ready for it to use it to put it into effect. So say, for example, you've got Chrome up, you've got Spotify up, you pull up YouTube while you're listening to Spotify, but you pause Spotify to listen to a YouTube video. Well, all of that information for Spotify has to go somewhere. It's stored in the RAM until you're ready to use it again. Till you close the program out, it's stored in the RAM. The more stuff you're doing, the more stuff you're using, the more it's going to use up your RAM. I don't recommend this day and age anything below 32 gigs of RAM, but you can survive with 16 for now. I highly recommend 32. 16 you could survive, 32 is comfortable, 64 is preferred, at least for me. So that covers how much. Speeds, DDR4 versus DDR5. Any system now, DDR4 is going to be a great option until another generation of DDR5 comes out, until it gets all the bugs worked out of it. That's my humble take on it anyway. Now you're going to have speeds of like 2200, 3600, 4200. Right now for DDR4, I stick with like a 32 or a 3600. Runs just fine for me. I think anything above 32 is going to overclock the RAM anyway on the motherboard, and you'll have to have either XMP or whatever the equivalent on Intel is engaged. And that's a setting in your BIOS that is a way deeper conversation than this video. The next piece that I wanted to cover was your GPU. As of 2023, you've got 3 options. You've got AMD, NVIDIA, or Intel. Intel has the Arc GPUs. They just launched recently, so I wouldn't even suggest even looking into them until they get another generation or 2 under their belt. But AMD and NVIDIA are going to be your 2 go-tos. AMD's got the Radeon series, NVIDIA's got the GTX series. With AMD, you're going to want either a 6000 series Radeon card or a 7000 series Radeon card. Anything less than those two, anything older than those two, and you are shortchanging your system. Likewise with NVIDIA, you've got the 40 series that just launched, launch and the 30 series that's been out for a while. Anything less than those two, and again, you're shortchanging your system. Don't go for anything older than those two systems, in my opinion. With the graphics card, a couple things you want to pay attention to. The VRAM, anything below 8 gigabytes, you're shortchanging yourself. Actually, I wouldn't advise a graphics card under 10 gigabytes of RAM. I play a lot of games right now that were designed for 4 gigabyte systems, but they will still use 11 and 12 gigs of my 16 gig 6800 XT. That's something to keep in mind. Just because it wasn't built for it doesn't mean it won't use it. Pay attention to the PCIe slot. So if you've got a graphics card that has PCIe Gen 5, if you try to slot that into a PCIe Gen 4 slot, it may work, it may not work properly. It's better to have it into a PCIe Gen 5 slot. And the PCIe slots are the long slots on your motherboard. Generally, you want to slot those into the top slots. And pay attention to the size if you're building. A lot of those graphics cards are 3 fans long. If you're building, pay attention to how long it is, how big it is, because it may or may not fit into the case that you've chosen. Rounding out everything, your power supply. How many watts do you need? Generally, I recommend going to type in PSU calculator in Google. One of the first 2 options is going to be your best option, and you can put in every little detail of what your system has, and it will recommend a wattage for your entire system. But generally, you're going to want to go at least 100 watts over what it recommends. So for your entire system, if it recommends like a 650 watt power supply, go 750. You'll notice when you're hunting for power supplies, if you're building, you'll have these ratings on there: 80 plus gold, 80 plus platinum, 80 plus titanium. These are the ratings, efficiency ratings for the power supplies. This means they've been put through the test, and it's telling you how efficient this power supply is going to be for the life of the power supply. Generally, you don't want anything under 80 plus gold. You're going to get your best power supply at 80 plus gold or higher. Personally, I have an 80 plus platinum in mind. Some names for power supplies that stick out in my mind right off the top of my head. I have an EVGA power supply. You've got Corsair makes good power supplies. Asus makes a couple. Those are just a couple right off the top of my head. If you're unsure, read about them. Search them in Google. Look for Reddits about them. Look for tech articles about them. Look for their specs. And just do what feels comfortable. Generally, if they have the 80 plus gold or 80 plus platinum on there, they're going to be safe to use. Anything that doesn't have 80 plus rating on there, don't trust. If it looks shady, don't buy it. Now, that covers the main portions of a computer. Some other things you're going to want to take into account when you're building. How much storage are you going to want? Are you going to want NVMe's? Are you going to want SSDs, which are solid state drives? Hard drives, I would not recommend this day and age. Hard drives are just way too slow. Yes, you're going to get more storage, but I just wouldn't recommend them. I can't bring myself to buy one, and that's just my personal opinion. I don't know why anyone would go with a hard disk drive this day and age when the solid state drive is superior in every way. But I didn't mention with the CPU, whether you want to go air cooling or what's called an all-in-one cooler or liquid cooler. If you've got a big enough case, air cooling should suffice you for anything 12 cores or under. I have in my system is air cooling my GPU while I have an AIO on my processor, taking the heat from my processor up through my case. Another thing to consider is how many fans do you want in there. The more fans that you have, the more cool air you can get into your system, pull into your system to cool off your parts. These things generate a lot of heat, and the more cool air you can pull across it, the cooler you can keep your GPU and your CPU, and the better lifespan you're going to have for your computer. And speaking of cases, case size, are you going to have enough room for all your parts? Are you building for small form factor? Are you going to have enough space to have a big case? Do you want a small case for smaller spaces? These are all things you're going to have to take into account. Whether you're building or whether you're buying, everything I just went through is going to help you determine what type of PC you buy. So if you're buying, knowing about the CPU, knowing about the RAM, knowing about the GPU is going to help you determine, okay, I'm going to go into the, say Best Buy, for example. I want a computer with 8 cores. Okay, so this computer has 4 gigabytes. No, I don't want that. Okay, this computer has a 6-core processor, but it has 16 gigs of RAM and it has this 3070 Ti. That might be a decent buy. Knowing the parts and knowing how it basically works is going to help you whether you're buying or building. Like I said, I highly recommend building. It's not that hard. It's very simple once you get into it. Once you break it down, it's simple and easy. There are some resources that I would recommend. Newegg has a PC part builder. You can pick your different parts based on what you pick. It will, on the next part, it'll recommend parts to go with the part previously. It will tell you whether these parts fit together or not. You've got PC Part Picker. You've got the PSU calculator. On YouTube, I can recommend YouTubers that go in depth, like Jay's 2 Cents, Tech Deals, Bitwit Kyle, Linus Tech Tips, people who go into it a lot deeper than I do. Gamers Nexus is another one. That's my tips and tricks for buying and building PCs. What'd you think? Know there's going to be somebody out there's going to be like, you forgot this, you forgot that, this, that, or that. Well, you know what? There's a great way that we can solve all that. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. Like or dislike the video to your heart's content. If you dislike it, please comment below. Help me improve. Let me know what I did wrong. Would you like to see done better? What did I get wrong? Please share with others as well, and that helps me out a lot. So thank you very much in advance. If you want a more personal experience where you could talk to me essentially one-on-one, I do stream on Twitch every Tuesday and Saturday after 4 p.m. Eastern. We do gaming over there, RPGs, world builders, that sort of thing. So check me out over there. Check out all my other links below as well. My Twitter, my TikTok, my Facebook. Until next time, y'all, happy viewing and have a good one.